No, I'm not talking about this cute dog. Although the owner of the dog is here with me, Magalie Rene. She is a business strategist, a best-selling author, and my personal coach. Thank you for being on the show, Magalie.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here, Andy.
I'm glad that you brought your dog with you.
Of course, I bring him everywhere.
What's your dog's name?
My dog's name is Prince, and he is my partner in crime.
Right on.
He's my associate and my employee.
Exactly, your employee.
One of my employees,
So
yeah.
Today on the Progression Show, we get to talk about your story.
Okay.
And we get to talk about your journey to being a successful best-selling author, coach, and business strategist.
Absolutely.
So where does your journey begin?
Oh my goodness, my journey begins in Brooklyn, New York, I suppose. Although I think the journey for me begins way before that. It begins with the parents that I have.
Okay.
So yeah, right in the womb. I'm very, very feminine woo-woo with my stuff. So definitely that's where my journey begins. It begins with my mother and my father. They're both Haitian. And yeah, Brooklyn, New York is where I was born and raised. And I'm Haitian American, first generation immigrant. That's where my story starts.
So now you're coaching some of the most successful individuals that this planet has to offer. What was the experience from going from that Brooklyn, New York girl to now living in California and coaching some highly successful people?
You want the long story or want the short story?
We can get it all.
Get it all. Let's get it all. So I'd say the short story was it really just took making a decision over and over again and following my heart.
What was that decision?
So the decision is to take action on those feelings that I have that come up, those desires that I have, to take action on them.
Okay.
And not to doubt myself, but instead to just move.
So let's tap into that. Take action. What was it that you wanted to take action on, and that the doubt came?
I mean, I think that comes up all the time. Doubt is one of the things most people are challenged with. I certainly have that challenge, and most of the people everybody that I coach from, I've had people that are building 15 million in their business, and I've had people who are just starting out. They all have the same fears, and we all have them, which is we doubt ourselves in certain moments. And really, in those moments, you have a choice. Do you give in to that doubt? Do you let it sort of take you down? Do you stall? Do you start and then stop? Do you give into it, or do you make a different decision? Do you choose something different?
The doubt for someone who's building a business, who's just starting out, and they may be on their first $1,000, compared to the person who's on their 15th million. Is the doubt equivalent, or is it different?
Same doubt.
Same.
It absolutely the exact same conversation.
Wow.
It's I don't know if I'm enough to make this happen. I'm not sure how this is gonna look. What are people going to think? It's all the same.
So how does one overcome such doubt?
I think that there's a couple of steps for me. So I can give you my process, and I know when I'm coaching people, it really depends. It depends what kind of person you are. So the first thing to know is know yourself. I always say you've got to know yourself. Are you the kind of person who's maybe high energy and really doesn't really take the time to stop and breathe and consider and be thoughtful about the decisions you're going to make? Or are you the kind of person that hesitates and waits and overthinks? So just kind of knowing yourself first and foremost, that will help you take the next step.
So
go ahead.
There's two types of people. Based on what you just shared, it's someone who makes a decision very fast based off energy, and then another person who analyzes the whole entire situation.
I definitely think that we fluctuate between one and the other. There are a lot of different personalities and where you might fall within that, but generally those are the two things. You're either moving at the speed of light, and maybe you're not being thoughtful about the way you're making decisions, and you just want to make it happen, results, or you're the kind of person that holds yourself back and waits and stops and pauses and overthinks things.
Gotcha.
And maybe things might take way longer for you than it needs to because you're just not moving.
Which is the best place to be?
I'd say the best place to be is somewhere in the middle. Anything that's too far on one end or the other isn't going to work. So to go back to the answer of how do you shift into taking action and getting over self-doubt is really like based on where you are in this spectrum, you're either going to need to stop and pause and be grounded and get clear on what you really want and then just choose, or you're going to need to take action and move quicker.
Okay.
So sometimes the easiest way to take action is just to do it. Don't overthink it.
Gotcha.
Just make a decision and go.
You have, in my life and in my personal business, you have evoked a lot of things out of me when you're coaching me. Now, what is the process that you use to support that you can support some of the viewers that are watching to find out what it is that they truly want?
I'd say you got to be with yourself. You have to sit with yourself, and for me, that means getting quiet. So how do you get silent enough and silent the noise in your head, quiet those voices that are telling you a million things and those outside influences? You're watching YouTube, you're watching Insta, and everybody's doing different things. How do you stop for yourself and decide what you want? You got to disconnect. You got to disconnect for a minute, and you have to really get conscious. So I love meditating. That's my thing. Some other people might want to pray. Other people may just need to take out a journal.
Gotcha.
Right, and that's a great way to start. Or if you're visual, you can do a vision board. You know, people think that's played out, but that still works. I have friends that do that for like a living. They have programs around vision boarding. So there are different ways that you can choose to stop and really sit with, what do I really want out of my life? When I move, if money wasn't in the way, if time wasn't in the way, and if other people's conversations and obligations weren't in the way, what would I want to do? Tap into that.
If money wasn't in the way, and if other people's influences weren't in the way, and if the conversations about what other people say to you,
Yep.
if that was in the way, what is it that you would do? And
Yep.
by you're saying by sitting with yourself or using a visualization method similar to a vision boarding, or just thinking about the future.
Yep, or
That's how you can-
journaling or writing it down, whatever works for you. Meditating, that might work
Meditating.
too. Yeah.
Okay. How is someone sure though?
You gotta trust it.
I
This
mean-
is the thing.
I mean, like
This is a great question, Andy. Oh, this is getting juicy.
I mean, like, how can someone be sure? Like, I have clients in my company that are in their late 60s. How can they be so sure that this is what they want? Because if they go on a 5-10 year journey going to something that they don't want, man, it's gonna be a lot of, it's gonna be messed up at the end.
Well, when I listen to that, I hear a little bit of perfectionism going on. Like there's this one place that I gotta get to, and I'm just gonna know right off the bat that this thing that I choose, this thing that I think I want, I know that I'm always gonna want this thing. That's not necessarily how life works, right? And this is one of the things that I had to break through, is thinking that there was a destination to get to. You have a goal, but in the goal, it's the process that's really interesting. That's where the juice is.
You're saying to focus on the process, not the result.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in the moment. So last year I was one way. This year in this moment, right now, I'm a different person.
Got it.
And I'm gonna be another person in another couple of months. So I really get to trust myself and not be overthinking. Oh, I'm already 10 years out in the future. I'll never make a decision if I sit there. If I go, I don't know what I want. How do I know that what I want right now is gonna take me out to the 10, 5, 15 years from now? Then I'm already putting myself, I'm no longer being present. So the best way to make a decision and to choose action is to choose it from a place of being present. Where am I right now? How do I feel right now? I'm gonna trust what's coming up for me in this moment and know that it's gonna take me some distance, one way or another. And sometimes what you choose and what you want in this moment will lead you and guide you if you follow it. If you trust it, it's gonna lead you to that next place, and that next place, and that next place.
So I'm very tempted to continue this on what it is that we want. I mean, the amount of people that I've spoken to, even me in my personal life, it's always about being clear about what we want. So here I have an expert who's going to teach us literally how to figure that out. And what is the road bumps? I know, and sometimes when I'm coaching with you and we get clear on what it is that I want and the direction to get there, I then will fall back on comparing myself to others. And we had a challenge recently about
A really good session about that, yeah.
A good session that you supported me to overcome and break through. So, and in addition to that, when I was going through that time of comparing myself to other people in my industry, I recognized there was a lot of people on social media who was having a similar challenge. So then that means it's a worldwide phenomenon that people are having this challenge. So how can people continue on this path without comparing themselves to others?
That's a really great question. It all feeds into the self-doubt, right? So you just got to think about, what is it that you want? Let's just back it out. So when I compare myself, so when you compare yourself, tell me, how did you feel when you were comparing yourself to other people?
When I compare myself to other people, I felt belittled.
How else did you feel? So you felt belittled.
I felt small. I felt that I was not important.
Small, unimportant.
Felt small. I felt unimportant. I felt ashamed.
Ashamed.
That I haven't reached up to that level yet. Saddened.
Saddened.
I felt saddened. I felt anger.
And anger. So you felt unimportant, you felt small, you felt saddened, you felt anger, you felt ashamed. You were beating yourself up because you hadn't reached this level as you were comparing yourself to someone. So it's a really simple question. Mm-hmm. Do you want to feel sad, angry, ashamed, depleted, belittled, all these things?
No.
How do you want to feel?
I want to feel happy, joyful, courageous, confident, and loving.
So if you know that comparing yourself just feeds those negative energies, it makes you sad, it makes you feel small, makes you feel like you're never going to arrive, you're never going to get there. And what you know you really want is to feel empowered and happy and joyful and motivated on your game, to feel confident. Then it's a really simple decision right there, right? Like there's always a decision we have to make. And you can just choose in that moment to say, how do I want to feel right now? If I want to feel the things that are going to lead me forward, catapult my vision, it's certainly not going to be sitting on Instagram and comparing myself to people.
So you're saying to make the choice. You're saying that all it is a choice.
Everything is a choice.
Everything. What do you mean by everything's a choice?
Everything's a choice. It's so funny because I think we get caught up in how we feel. And it's one of the things that used to stick me. I'd be like, well, I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel happy. I don't feel energized. And, you know, there's a saying, feelings are like farts. They pass. Yeah. They pass, right? Yeah. Like, so if I'm going to put all my stock and my energy in my feelings, then I'm never going to create anything concrete because my feelings go like this. Right. You know, one morning I feel great. The next morning I might feel really sad or depleted. But it's not about how I feel. It's about what I choose.
Okay.
It's about taking action based on a decision that I make.
So is it that simple, or is it like a 1, 2, 3 step process? Like do I gotta do? Like I know, for example, like Mel Robbins, and she has a system where it's like, you know, the 5-second rule.
Yep, I use that 5-second rule. Yes, I do.
Is there a process to choose? To make a choice, because it can't be just that easy. It's
really that simple. We as humans overcomplicate things.
Wow.
We make things really complicated. The question is, how do you want to feel? Okay. If you're taking an action that you know is going to lead you in a certain direction, and it's not the direction you want to go, then it really is that simple. We have my little employee right here causing trouble in the background.
Prince doing
his thing.
So it's a choice. And then after I choose, I get to move forward with that choice.
Yeah, because I think that people don't realize how much power they have.
Got it.
Right? When we're in our feelings, we think we are at the mercy of our feelings. When really we're the ones who are in charge of what we choose to do.
Got it.
We choose to, like, the action we choose to take. I have the control over that.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, word. So when you grew up in Brooklyn, how did you, so we're going to backtrack. So you were growing up in Brooklyn. When did you leave Brooklyn to come over here?
Oh my goodness. Well, that happened recently, like 7 years ago.
Yeah,
I lived quite a bit of life. We don't need to tell them my age, but I lived in New York for like most of my life, and then I moved to Boston, and I lived there for 6 years when I was in college. And I moved here 7 years ago, and I wanted to be a Californian. I wanted to live in LA since I was, I don't know, like 12.
Why?
So it's just, I don't even know. I had no family here. I just felt like there was something calling me. You know, I heard your story, and I know that one of your things was you had gotten this feeling one day, and you were like, I really want to move to California. Yeah. You just had a vibe, and you just did it, right? You made the choice.
Right.
You made the choice. So it was basically that. It took me a longer time to make that choice. I've had relationships I was in, and I was married, and I did move here initially with my husband, and so there were some things that needed to be worked out, but I made it over, and 7 years ago.
You made it here. And now since you made it here, what have you been up to?
Oh my God, so many things. So I launched my first business. So my background, so you guys know, is in public relations, is in marketing, corporate communications, so always writing and always speaking. But doing that.
Corporate entity to the end user?
Corporate, I was working in corporate. So I was working for a corporation, and I was helping my clients and or the company, depending where I was in my career, helping them to brand themselves and get their message out into the world, right? And so I did that for businesses, and I launched eventually my own business in a completely unrelated field in interior design. And I launched that business right before I moved to LA.
Wow.
So when I moved to LA, my business took off. So my interior design business took off. I was redesigning schools mostly on the East Coast. So I travel back and forth. I redesigned some office spaces, some homes, some residences.
Now, let me ask you a question. Why would someone ask you to come? I mean, can they just go to IKEA?
No, not they can't do. IKEA can't do what I do.
So what made it special that you came in?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. So my company is called Consciously Design. It's actually still active, and consciouslydesign.com. But it's about creating a beautiful space. Hello, mic drop. But creating beautiful spaces for a better world. So at the end of the day, it was really for me about creating an environment that supports people in feeling the way that they'd like to feel. So if you know it's a school, for instance, how do you want the kids to feel when they come in? How do you want the teachers to feel? Absolutely. The environment that you're in, I'd say everything in the environment. So both the air quality, right down to the furniture, to the colors, your office space colors. That was a lot of the work that I was doing when I was doing interior design.
Like a dark Rene purple. Mm-hmm. How does that make people feel?
You know, for me, how does it make you feel? For me, it makes me feel cozy. I want to sit down and I want to get comfortable and I want to talk to people.
That's actually how
and I want to connect, kind of what we're doing right now.
That's kind of how this environment makes me feel, especially like this couch. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah. That makes sense. See, if it was me, man, I would have put a table and a chair and that would have been it.
Because you want to do work. You want to get work done, right? So maybe in your office, maybe you're the kind of person that doesn't need a lot of clutter. So you want a lot of light. You want to have something that makes you feel like, okay, let's get down to business. So you'd have a clean space. There'd be a lot less things, maybe not as much comfort. So.
Gotcha. Okay, powerful.
So I did that when I moved to LA after interior design. I actually started doing personal development work, and that's how I ended up in coaching. Because I actually transitioned businesses. I transitioned businesses myself, and then I found that a lot of people want to do that. Like something like 89%, some crazy percentage of people are unhappy with the work that they do.
Right.
And I had successfully transitioned businesses. I had gone from being a corporate, just like an employee, to then owning my own business. So when I got out here and I started doing personal development work, I realized I had a skill for supporting people in doing the same thing.
Gotcha.
So that's how I got into what I'm doing.
In the personal development work.
In the personal development work, yeah.
So you did a lot of different personal development programs?
Absolutely.
And that supported you in understanding how to coach people?
In understanding myself first, and then understanding certainly how to coach people.
So now that
how people think.
How many people would you say you've coached in the last 7 years since you started?
Oh my God. I think at this point I'm probably up to, I want to say 200, maybe a little more.
200 people.
Yeah,
so,
it feels like more. It's probably actually more. It's probably closer to, let's just leave it around 200 that I've had like one-on-one coaching processes
with. What would you say the biggest challenge that people really have nowadays?
I'd say it's multifold. I'd say there are probably 3 of the biggest challenges, but we could break it all down to fear.
Really?
Right? Like everything, it's either fear, or it's either feeding fear or it's feeding love, is the way I like to look at things. Foundationally, and there are certain 3 main fears that I think people, especially people trying to run businesses, launch businesses, be successful, people like you that want to be seen, that want to be heard, that have a message to share with people. There are 3 main fears. One is fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown.
Meaning they're scared because they can't control what's going to happen.
Okay.
Fear of being judged.
Fear of judgment.
And I'd say fear of, what would that last fear be? Fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, and this is a big one actually, fear of success.
Fear of success.
This is the one that surprised me the most. I didn't expect this for people, but this is one of the things that show up the most for people that have a big vision and a big plan. They're actually not afraid to fail. They're afraid to succeed.
My goodness.
Yeah.
In my career, and we've talked about this, but in my career, how do you know if you're scared to be successful or you're scared of failure?
I'd say you need to have a good coach that knows the questions to ask. That's number one.
That's very true. Because I do recognize that you're able to pick up, and if you recognize there was a moment during this interview where she said, "I hear perfectionism," and that the words that we share literally are our world. Express a little bit about that, because I see that you're always nitpicking on the vocabulary of the people that you're working with, and because of the vocabulary, you're able to literally dissect what's challenging them.
Yeah, you just said something really powerful. So words create your words create your world.
Right.
One of the most masterful coaches I've ever had said that, and Margot Majdi, and she's amazing. And essentially, we have very common language we use. And that language sort of takes away from our power, our energy, our focus. We cut ourselves down without even knowing it. So like you might say, I'm trying. Well, if you're trying, you're not doing. So which one? Are you doing it or you're not doing it?
Got it.
Like, get clear. So that's one of the things. You might say something like, oh, I have to. I gotta go do this. I gotta go do that. I need to. There's like a desperate energy that comes with that. Whereas if I was to say something like, I can't wait to, I get to, I'm blessed to. Words really create your world. And in terms of the fear of failure and the fear of success conversation, really think about why it is you haven't made the moves or the decisions that you've made. It's possible that it's either because you're afraid that you're going to be judged and you're going to flub and everyone's going to see you fail, and that's possible. But think a little bit deeper. Might you also be afraid that if you are a success, let's say, Andy, what's going to happen if I'll put you in this, we'll do a little case study with Andy. If you were to go from where you're at now financially and quadruple that, what would happen?
The first thing I just think about is the amount of more responsibility that I'll have. That's the first thing
That's it.
More payroll, more.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're going to need more employees. You're going to have more responsibilities.
Yeah.
So really ask yourself, wherever you are right now in your business and on your journey, ask yourself, if I was to be successful, and get clear on what success means for you. But if I don't even know which one is my camera. Anyways, beautiful. If I was successful right now, what would change in my life? What kind of responsibilities would I now have? And if you find your stomach getting tight with that, if you feel like your throat, you might feel it in different places, but if you feel concerned, if you feel scared, then that might be something that's stopping you. It might actually be a bigger fear for you to be successful, because then everything changes, than for you to fail. Because if you were to fail, you wouldn't be any different than you are now, maybe. You'd just be in the same place.
Wow, no, that's deep. And I can't imagine how many people experience that in their life, and it either stops them or it slows them down. So how can one overcome fear of success?
I'd say take it one step at a time in your mind. I think sometimes we have these really big visions, and they seem gigantic and they seem like a lot, but know a couple of things. So I'm going to go with the spiritual route too. And that doesn't necessarily mean religious, but you can apply it any which way you want. But you're not going to be given anything, or you're not going to receive anything that you cannot hold. That's the first thing. So I'm not a mega millionaire right now because my life isn't set up, my business isn't set up to hold that. So you're actually not going to be able to have yet what you cannot hold. So it's step by step. Take it one moment at a time, one step at a time.
Faith, that regardless, have that faith that once you arrive to that position, you would be able to handle it.
No doubt. And also know that it's a building process, right? So you're building something, and success today is not the same as success tomorrow. It's all a process. So again, we started here talking about how it's not just one vision and one end goal. There's an entire journey that you get to go on in order to even get to wherever you think you want to go. And that might even change over time. And so really just knowing that by the time you get there, focus on this moment. Focus on what you need to do right now. That will relieve you of overthinking about what it's going to look like in the future. Because to your point, if you have faith and you move and you take steps forward, by the time you get where you think you want to go, you'll be ready. You'll be prepared. It'll be happening.
So we have some questions for you actually today. We have some questions for you. And these questions are real life scenarios. And you get to answer these questions as a coach.
Okay. Bring it. I feel like this is like the lightning round.
The person says, I'm in a job I hate. Now, I'm going to be very clear on the language that I use. Mm-hmm. It will be actually what's in the text and not any of my own words. I am in a job I hate. How do I break free from this and have the courage to do what I'm passionate about?
Oh my God, I'm writing a book about that right now. So good. It's a really good question. So there are a couple of things. First of all, really think about, we just talked about words create your world. So the first thing that I want to dissect is that word hate. Any negative language you're using, even if you dislike something, it's only emphasizing how bad it is the more you say it. I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate my job. So let's try and hack, I like to hack the universe, right? Like, let's hack the universe. If you were to say today, I love what I do, I love what I do, I love what I do. Remove it from the job, remove the hate, remove all of that. Just keep saying that to yourself. See what would show up over the course of the days. Maybe you start paying more attention to the things, even at this job that overall you don't like. You start paying attention to the things that are not so bad. Because you're saying over and over, I love what I do, I love what I do, I love what I do. So that's the first thing. The second is you gotta really assess, have you gotten clear on what you do want? Because that's where your focus gets to go. Tony Robbins is amazing with this. He'll say, find the red in a room. And people will be looking for the red, they'll look for the red, and he'll go, okay, stop looking for the red. People are still seeing the red. You still find the red in the room because your brain is wired to look for the thing that you've just talked yourself into looking at. So instead, remove the focus from the job that you hate and get really crystal clear on what it is you want. So what's the job that you want? Do you even know that? Some people hate their job, but they don't even have an idea of what it is they would do if they could do something different.
So what should they do in that scenario?
In the scenario of hating their job and not wanting to change jobs.
Because I tell them all become an entrepreneur. I tell everybody go into sales, be an entrepreneur. Well, from your point of view.
From my point of view, you got to do what feels good to you, what makes you happy. So you have to know what that is. Not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. A lot of people think they're supposed to be an entrepreneur, and then they become entrepreneurs and they're miserable. It's not for them. So first of all, explore. So start testing things out. If you don't already know what it is you want to do, then start testing it out. I coach a lot of different people, and some of them are within corporations, some of them are in their career, some of them are executives, others are entrepreneurs. For me, it doesn't matter what you are. It matters that you are content and fulfilled with what you've chosen. So get clear on that. Explore so that you can determine what it is you really want. And then jumping off from there, now you're going to start taking the action step by step by step to make that become your reality. So what are your action steps? You have a plan? So do you know what you want, and then do you have a plan?
You might not even have a plan.
There you go. So that's the second step. So you got to know what you want, and then you need to create a plan for how you're going to get it. And in the meantime, adjust your words, adjust your focus. So you can say, I love what I do. And you can start focusing on the things that don't make you miserable, as opposed to what's dragging you down, right?
Right.
So that's my 10 cents there.
The next question is, I've done everything I thought I was supposed to do. I got a degree, got a great job, I got married, and yet I feel empty and unhappy inside. I thought I wanted this. What the fuck?
I've been there. So first and foremost, I have been there. I understand this to such a level. That one really hits me close. What I'd say is that back to that first point, you didn't really take the time to know yourself. You had an idea, is what I'm hearing, based on probably what you grew up around, maybe who your friends are and who you're around, possibly your parents, maybe society and television and rom-coms. You had this vision of what life was supposed to look like. And my question to that viewer or that reader is, what is it that you really want? What makes you happy? Have you ever taken the time to explore what makes you happy?
On what it is that makes them happy,
Yep.
and taking the action steps.
And then taking the action steps.
So this is interesting. The question is, I'm divorced and single, and now I see engagement announcements, wedding pictures, and other professions of love. I feel extremely annoyed. How do you recommend I turn this into a more positive thought?
If you can't be happy for someone else's success in any area of their life, you're repelling your own success.
Wow.
In any area of your life. That includes your love life. I'm divorced and I'm single too. So that's something, again, I can really resonate with. But at the end of the day, You gotta find a way. So what I'm hearing underneath that, I wonder if you can pinpoint what we were talking about earlier that I'm hearing in this. That she's looking at other people who have
the comparison.
totally.
Yeah,
She's in comparison, or he or she is in comparison. So at the end of the day, one, there's a beautiful saying: the sun and the moon do not compete. I'm butchering this quote, but it's like the sun and the moon, they both shine, but they shine in their own time. So no comparisons,
Put that
people.
in the book.
Look, right at the end of the book, mic drop. Did y'all get that? Did y'all get that? So the sun and moon, they both shine, but they shine in their own time. So you have to.
The sun and the moon shine.
Both shine, but they shine.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that.
Andy's loving this. Andy's loving this.
All right, I get excited about starting something new, but then I give up. How do I make myself follow through?
Your why isn't deep enough. So why are you doing this in the first place? My why, Andy's why, is so deep rooted that I wake up in the morning, even on a bad day, and I'm excited. I cannot wait to do my work. I can't wait to be in service. You can't wait to jump on live. Andy can't wait to be with his people, to support people, to share his story, to support other people in sharing their story. So your why isn't deep enough, which means get to the root of it. Think about when was the very first time you decided and knew you wanted to do that thing you want to do. When was the very first time? How old were you? What was that moment? Why did you want to do it? How did it make you feel when you realized you were creative, or when you realized you were supposed to be an entrepreneur, or when you realized whatever these talents and skills are? Your why gets to be really deep. It's not just, I want to be a jewelry designer. Well, why? Because I want people to wear my jewelry. There's something that's not deep enough, right? Yeah, of course we want people to watch our videos and read our books and buy our jewelry, but it's something deeper.
Is it typically in alignment with something that happened in that person's childhood?
I want to say yes, but not necessarily. Sometimes you don't realize until much later what it is you have a skill for. You might not even develop that skill until later. But what it is when you look at the contribution you're going to make, connect that feeling to the different points in your life that have gotten you there. So it might not be your childhood, but it may be other points in your life, or even right now, that moment when you first did that thing, how someone reacted to it, how you felt. Yeah. Gotcha. So you got to connect it to something deeper during the course of your life, for sure.
So the next question, and the last question, is how do I find my passion when I don't feel any? How do I find my passion when I don't feel any?
I would ask that person, I have more questions for that person. I want to know what they're doing. I want to know how they're spending their time. I want to know if they're on the couch. I want to know what they're eating. I want to know if they're Netflixing nonstop. Right? Gary Vee talks about Netflixing all the time. And it's just like, Netflix is awesome, but like, what are you doing with your time? Because if you're not passionate, it's like when people say, I'm bored. Yeah. You're bored because you're boring. Right? I know this is hard. This is like some harsh coaching right now. But if you're not passionate, if you can't find the passion, it's because you're not being passionate. Like, what are you doing with your time? Are you exploring things that you like to do? Are you doing the things that you like to do that make you laugh, that make you joyful?
The question comes down to how. Is there a way to find out exactly what you want? I'm sure the person who figures it out is going to be rich, but is there a way to find out how to find out exactly what you want and to make sure that you're on the right course? Or do you just get to continue to be present?
I think it's a combination. Like, honestly, I think everybody wants a quick fix, and there's no one-stop shop for it.
Okay.
You got to know yourself, first of all. How did you figure out what you wanted?
Through my spiritual.
Through your spiritual?
Through God, yeah.
I mean, I figured out what I wanted through trial and error. Like, I had multiple careers before. I mean, I was a fashion stylist for 6 months, right? And I did marketing and public relations for 15 years. And then I went into interior design. I followed the breadcrumbs.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is that this continuous progression after what it is that you may want.
Absolutely.
So one person may have a desire to, for example, in my career, they may have a desire to want to be a speaker. They end up becoming a speaker, and then they realize they want to do something else.
Absolutely. They might learn that they're a really great teacher. And they might want to put on courses. They might want to have online courses. They might decide, oh my gosh, what I've been speaking about, I want to write about. They might end up becoming authors. Right? So it can go in so many different directions. I think we're really hard on ourselves, that there's one way and it's the right way and it's the only way. And when you get into that, it's an either or conversation. And when you're in an either or conversation, you're pulled. It's like resistant. Left or right, where you could have it all.
What's the opposite of either or then?
Both and.
Both and.
Both and. How can I have a goal and also allow myself to explore it?
Okay.
How can I make a decision and choose something, but also be open and aware and present, to your point, so that when something comes up, I'm like, oh, that looks good too. Is there a way that I can create both and here?
Gotcha.
Like, yeah, you're always going to be in the question.
Instead of going left or right and having to choose between one or the other, what you're saying essentially is, how can I do both of it and everything? And, so everything. So how can I do both and everything? Powerful. Now, the last question I have for you is, how important is progression to being successful?
I think it's everything. I think it's everything. It's really the root of that is about enjoying the journey. Literally, I've been talking about enjoying the journey the whole time. And that is progression right there. Because every day is a new moment and a new opportunity for me to choose something powerful. Every moment is a new opportunity for me to course correct. Every moment is an opportunity to grow, for me to learn, for me to get better and better and better and progress every day. That is progression. And that is the definition of success, because success isn't a destination you're getting to. It's the way you live your life.
Gotcha. Success, it's the way you live your life. And in living your life, number one, what I took away from you, and I'm sure you may have taken something else away.
I hope so.
But what I took away from you is that I get to be present, not only myself, but we get to be present in our journey and not so focused on the end destination. And in addition to that, instead of choosing either or of something in our life that we want to accomplish, we get to do both and, which is everything that we want to accomplish.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I know we didn't talk about this, but I did want to talk about this, ways of being.
Okay.
You've been coaching me on my ways of being, and I've been learning about ways of being, and I get to share that with my audience about what ways of being actually is and how to identify your ways of being and course correct to be in the best place in your being.
Yeah.
So let's start off with, what is it? What is ways of being?
So you guys know what doing is, right? Doing is when I take an action and I choose to do something, be active, right? So being is how I am choosing to do the doing. So in other words, I want to give you guys an example so that it's really clear. So I have a difficult conversation to have with someone. So the doing is going to be, I'm going to have this difficult conversation. In terms of ways of being, the ways of being means, how am I going to deliver the message that I have to deliver? So if I want to tell Andy something, he pissed me off, right? Andy did something that pissed me off. He didn't, but I'm just saying. I'm going to be like, there are multiple ways that I can deliver that message. Andy, you know what? You really made me mad. This is what happened, and I really am not about this. You disrespected me, or whatever the conversation may be, that I have this beef with Andy. That's one way of being. So what was that way of being that you just experienced? Andy, I'm really sick of this.
That was deliberate. I would say that was aggressive. Anger. You had anger in there. All right, pissed off.
So aggressive, angry, pissed off.
Yeah.
I can have the same conversation with Andy with a different way of being. Andy, look, I just want to be really honest with you. When this happened, it made me really uncomfortable, and it actually pissed me off. And this is why it pissed me off. And this is what I want you to know about me. What did you experience in that way of being?
I felt you being present. I felt that you were connected with me. And I felt that you were actually loving, because you were sharing what you experienced. So
same message, different way of being. So the action could be one thing. Okay, I'll let Andy take it away.
I mean, I come from an impoverished area, and there's a lot of women over there, for example, that I have a lot of love for, but the way that they share their message to their significant other comes off as example A. Example number one, where it came off aggressive, and the guy felt aggressive, or he took that aggressive. Now, how can this affect your business? The way that this could affect your business, and she taught me, she's one of the people that taught me this, how it could affect my business is that I'm still sharing the same message, but the way that it's coming off is completely different. So the first time you shared it, I felt that you were aggressive and it was more of an attack. And the second time you shared the same message, I felt that you were present, connected, and loving.
This is so powerful for your clients. This is so powerful for your colleagues. This is powerful for your partners, for your vendors, for every aspect of your business, because if you don't master your ways of being, then you don't get people on your side. Even like your followers, your fans. Like you watch some people and there's something a little bit different about one person versus the other.
And they're saying the same thing.
And they're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But they're not connected. Maybe one of them is disconnected. Maybe it feels like somebody's talking down to you or teaching you something. You don't feel like they've been where you've been. You don't feel like they're doing. Prince is so cute. You don't feel like they understand where you're at, because their ways of being is, condescending or high and mighty or whatever that is. So paying attention to your ways of being will really empower you in your business, and it can catapult the amount of money you pull in too.
100%.
Because another way of being, maybe the most important around business and closing deals and making sales, is trust. So what does it take for you to be the kind of person that when someone encounters you, they trust you?
Gotcha.
That right there, that's like the most powerful way of being, right?
So what is the way of being to invoke or create trust in a relationship?
I'd say the way of being to evoke trust is to be connected.
Connection.
That's the first one. You got it. People have to feel like you care. That's the other thing. Is so connected, the C's. Connected, caring, and convicted. Convicted, meaning like you believe in your message. When I speak, I full body believe every word I'm saying, so no one's gonna feel like I'm trying to peddle something, or I'm trying to sell them something that isn't true and isn't honest and real to me, because I'm convicted. So connection, caring, and conviction. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Those are the most powerful ways of being.
So what is one thing that you can leave off in this interview today that people can take an action step to being a progressive individual, to progress their life? And this is so general, and the reason why it's generalized is so everyone can take action.
Yep. I'd say it's a 3-step. Is it okay for me to give 3 steps?
All right, 3 steps.
Okay, 3 steps, y'all. The first, you gotta know yourself. So get really honest with yourself about who you are and what you're up to, what you want. The second step is own it. That's confidence. You have to accept who you are. Own your gifts, your skills, your talents. I mean, you got this, right? So you get to walk through life like, I have this. Third is to shine. And like we talked about the sun and the moon shining in their own time, you get to shine. Never feel uncomfortable, embarrassed, shy to really show and share with people who you are. That's what Andy does so well. That's why you guys watch him, right? Like he connects with people. He knows how to shine. You floss. Any term you want to give it, really, you guys, like that's what it's about. So know yourself, own it, and shine.
Wow, thank you so much for being on the show, Magalie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and Prince on.
Yes,
hello.
thank you for coming on the show,
Yes,
Prince.
yes.